everyone, welcome to Showtime with me, Aisha. As you all know, in here is all about entertainment, everything entertainment. If you're not talking entertainment, shush. All right, today in the studio we have one of Nigeria's biggest producers and directors, and he's no other but Patrick Otoro. You're welcome on the show, sir.
Thank you, Aisha. Thank you for having me here.
It's good to have you here.
It's a pleasure. This is really nice.
Yeah.
Beautiful studio you have here.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
So Patrick is going to be talking to us about his journey through productions and directing. But before we go further, let's take our very quick break. When we return, the show continues. Welcome back. So before the short break, I told you that we have Patrick Otoro in the studio, and he'll be telling us his journey through production and directing in the movie industry. You're welcome once again.
Thank you again.
Okay. So can you tell us about your journey, how you began and where you are right now?
Oh, well, my story is quite interesting because I recall as a little boy back in the day, I would always love to watch programs on television and movies particularly, and so while doing some of those things I saw on television, I would on my own begin to reenact them, sometimes imitate my parents, particularly my dad, because he was very strict, so sometimes I kind of mimic him, the things he does, and that's how first of all the interest started. And I realized that people would tell me, you can do this, you're really good at it. So when it was time to start a career, I thought I would love to be an actor, but my dad was vehemently opposed to it because he wanted me to be an accountant because he was an accountant professionally. And I told him I don't even have the head for figures, so let me do what I want to do. And we had that running battle, but eventually I forced my way. I read theater arts, and here I am.
Yeah. So when did you begin? When did you begin production, acting?
Okay, so just before I went to school, the late 80s, I got involved with some professional theater groups back then in Warri, and then I got admission to school and started doing, of course, school drama and all of that. But when I finished school in 1994, I was posted to Abuja for my youth service, and during my youth service year, I was part of the drama troupe in the NYC camp that year. And we had this, I think that was the first time they organized the NYC drama and dance competition. That was the first time it was organized. And FCT, as a chapter, as a state then, came second in drama. And we came third in dance. But individual awards, I now won the best actor nationally. And so after youth service, some lady who had come to watch the final from the US Embassy, she was then the cultural affairs officer. I was told backstage that there's a woman looking for me. So when I came out, she said, the way she sounded, you knew she was not a Nigerian. So she said, you're such a good actor. I mean, she said all the good things. And before I knew it, a month or two later, I was on my way to the US on an exchange program. And yeah, so that's how the journey began. Of course, when I came back, I just decided I wasn't going to work for government. I was going to just start with this thing professionally. So that's how my journey into production started. So I started small, doing plays here and there, And so I've been in the space since professionally since 1995, 96.
Okay, so acting has been a thing for you, I must say, but now realize that you're more of production. What is it with actors that immediately they get into the industry after a while, like maybe 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, they just end up being producers and directors? Like, is it that the acting is less financial?
No. It has nothing to do with finances for me. Mostly because I just love to tell stories. And I realize that when I'm in other people's production as an actor, my involvement is limited in the kind of story I'd like to tell. And because I want to tell stories that transform, stories that enlighten, stories, just stories. And I can only do that if I'm in charge. And the only way to tell your kind of story is you producing the story you want to tell, right? So that's how I moved into, because I realized Nigeria is so full of stories to be told. And like there's a saying that I had growing up as a child, that if you don't tell your story, somebody else will, and they probably will tell it the wrong way.
Yeah.
So I'd rather begin to tell stories that have not been told and tell them rightly. And so do my research and tell the stories. Whatever it is I do, from a family point of view, make sure your information is correct and tell a story. If it's historical stories, do your research properly and tell a story. If it's a political story, make sure your facts are correct and you're not politically motivated by any political party, you're not assuaged by that. Tell your story and just do your bit. So I just got into storytelling. So if you ask me today, what do you do for a living? I tell you I'm a storyteller.
Okay, I've heard, let's just say we've actually heard a lot of producers saying Nigeria is actually a big nation and it has a lot and lots of stories. But we keep on watching the same thing over and over again. Is it that you guys are not trying to explore?
What do you mean the same thing? Stories, if you watch the stories we tell lately, they're different stories.
I'm actually talking about Nollywood.
Nollywood.
Yeah. The whole story is centered on a particular. When you start watching a movie, I can tell you that you can predict the end and you will surely be correct. And they keep on saying that Nigeria is actually big enough and there are a lot of stories to be told, but we've not heard that story yet.
Okay, so you must admit, lately, the quality of the films we show on Nollywood, that's why you see them feature on Netflix, on other platforms. Because on Prime, I think it's Prime, all those other platforms that you have that feature Nigerian stories, the stories are different now. They're telling more everyday stories, and they're telling more Nigerian stories. Because we're Nigerians, okay? We're in Nigeria and we are in Nigeria. We can only tell our story and tell our story as who we are. However, when you decide to now streamline it to maybe historical stories, right? You cannot tell a Kanuri story like a Yoruba story. Ain't gonna happen.
Yeah.
You cannot tell a Niger Delta story like you're telling a story from the north. It has to be a Niger Delta story from a riverine area with the riverine people and culture. So depending on what story you're telling, but if it's a story of I was poor and I became rich, it's about the same story everywhere, right?
A prince doesn't marry a princess. He rather goes to marry a villager some village or a girl. Pauper,
Right, you know, sometimes it's a commercial value as well. Okay. So when they tell the stories, they also look at what will sell for me. So you must also put that in mind. You also don't want to make sure you don't want to tell a story that you tell the story and your movie remains on your shelf and nobody buys it. So people consider all of those factors in telling their stories. Everybody wants to be inspired, you know. So when people watch stories, for instance, if it's a story of somebody who struggles, you want to ensure that at the end of that story, there's some good that comes out of the struggle. And then somebody watches your story and can say, I'm inspired and encouraged by the story you just told. Depending on whatever angle you come from, that's why a lot of the storytellers also find out that because we live in a world and a space where we all need some encouragement today because the times are peculiarly tough. So everybody needs something that can just give you a spark of hope to say, if this person can make it in this story, then there's hope for me. So that probably informs what your concern is.
Okay.
Yeah.
We get to see in the international world when they actually shoot a movie, you get to see them take like years shooting a particular movie. But for us here,
it's changing.
Some of the movies we watch,
before you finish,
is it that we are actually too creative that Aisha, we can make a movie?
It is changing, Aisha. That has changed. Okay. These days, people tell stories for months and for years sometimes. It's not as quickly done as you think. I remember back in the day, people would shoot a film for 5 days. That cannot happen now, because now you have people who are professionals on the video, on the cameras. You have people, even in the script writing alone itself, it takes time because you have to do your research. You have to get a pool of writers. If you're the one writing the script, you need to get a screenplay writer to write the script for you for the screen, and then you want to shoot. In editing, which is post-production, you want to, sometimes some of them even go abroad to treat the pictures they have, both sound and audio, and pictures rather. So all of that, it's a process. It's not done that way anymore. I can tell you for a fact that all of that has changed or is changing. We're getting better. And that's why our movies now are featuring in a lot of international movie festivals. If they were that bad, they would not even give you a platform. Netflix won't accommodate your movies if it's not qualitatively done.
Are you actually sure about that?
Yes, I am.
Because we see
there's a quality test before you are featured on Netflix.
Okay, please, will you elaborate on that? Like quality,
there's quality control.
Is it the content quality?
No, there's content quality. There's technical quality in terms of pictures, sound, lighting. All of that comes to play now.
How about the story quality?
That's content.
Okay.
That's the content. So, listen, everybody's story is original, depending on who's telling the story.
Yeah.
You cannot question my story. This is the story I have to tell. So the question you want to find out, how are you treating the story? How are you telling it? How qualitative is it going to be? Again, it comes down to commercial value of the story you're telling. In any case, I'm not a player on the movie industry that much. I am more on stage, which is my interests. I realize that we all can't be on a screen, and not many of us are going onto the stage. So why don't you stay on stage and get the family engaged, where people can come watch live theater. For instance, you go abroad, you go to the US. When you were in New York, you go to Broadway. Broadway is where the live theater happens. So even some of the big screen actors in the US fight to get on Broadway, because Broadway is a real thing. Every good actor should be able to carve their niche on stage. I mean, if you're an actor on screen and you're not confident on stage, you're not started yet. That's my assessment.
Okay.
Yes.
So, talking about stage plays, can you tell us how you put up a stage play? Like, how do you choose your script writers, or do you do it yourself?
Most of my stories, I develop my stories, and then if I want to be distant from the script itself, I get writers to write it. Mm-hmm. So that means I'm going to direct it. I will allow somebody else to write it, to give me an idea of somebody else's perspective to my story. Because what that helps me to do is to see my story through somebody else's perspective. Yeah. But as a director, I cannot begin to say, okay, this is how I like this part, so I probably will marry those perspectives to it, right? And then, of course, the same process, just that the difference is that for stage, after auditioning and casting for roles, we'll have to spend time rehearsing, rehearsals for probably 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks, depending on how intense the work is. So we rehearse, and while doing all of the rehearsals, you're doing your publicity like I'm doing here now, and you do all the little groundwork to publicize your show. So it's just that the only difference is the adrenaline that comes out of you on stage, on the performance, because it's live. Yeah. You make your mistakes there. Whatever it is, the audience is there watching you. So there's no call to take it again. True. So that's why I say, for me, the stage is more exciting. For any actor who knows his onions, you know that it's make or bust on stage, right? Okay. So yeah, we've
seen a couple of stage plays that you've produced and directed, and we've also seen that of others, like all around the world and Nigeria. So the thing is, what makes yours spectacular? What makes you unique? Like saying that, okay, you're going to be producing an upcoming stage play. Yeah. So why will someone wants to leave that of others to come watch yours?
First of all, I have been in this space for almost 3 decades. So I understand, first of all, I understand the Abuja audience. That's number one. Number two, I have come to understand that if I ask you to pay 5 naira to come and watch me, I should give you value for that money. So I put value on the work I do. I do not take for granted sets. I put enormous details into set design, set building. I put enormous details into costumes. lighting, sound. And if it's a musical, I put in all the dances and music. So I put in a lot of shifts. I spend a lot of money to put the place together. And as an Abuja-based producer, I can tell you, I've been proud. I think I have produced two of the biggest shows in this town as an independent-based producer here on stage. I don't think there's anybody that has done. I did Agbaro the musical in 2019 that had Richard Mofedamijo and Hilda Dokubo on stage, live. Last year, December, I did again One Good Man with, again, RMD on stage live. Those kind of actors don't come cheap. And you don't see them anywhere. You see them only, that means you have something to offer.
Yeah.
So to have the quality of an RMD on stage means that it's an endorsement on the kind of producer and director that I am. And so I'm saying that if you truly want to see a quality production, stage production, you don't want to miss my shows because they come really, really cool. Okay. I'm telling you, because I take my time to put in the details. I spend time and money. Okay. Yeah, so you don't want, if you want, but for the client we live in, if I take my place to Broadway, they will watch me over and over and over again.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, what can you tell us about your actors?
Abuja is growing. Abuja is growing because not many people in Abuja are professionally dependent on acting. A lot of them work in ministries, they work in other places. So acting is like a supporting thing. But the few who have shown interest, you can tell that there are good talents in this town. Many, even though sometimes you do this place, you have to bring in one or two people from Lagos or from other parts of the country to just give you support. But presently in Abuja, we have some very fantastic actors, like the play we're doing next weekend, Amina. It's a play you don't want to miss because it's our story again. In fact, Amina reminds me of my story.
Okay, so complete this statement. If I couldn't complete this, if I couldn't make movies, I would.
If I couldn't make movies, I will do theater.
So if you are not into the movie industry completely, what would you have done differently? Would you have been the accountant that your dad wanted you?
No, not a chance. I wouldn't have been. If I was not in the entertainment industry, I'll be a farmer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Farming is actually industrious. So.
Yes, I farmed a lot while I was younger.
Okay.
I did a lot of cassava farming. So yeah, I'll be a farmer instead.
Okay. So moving away from, you said you now do stage plays.
Yeah.
So what's more challenging? Is it producing a stage play or being acting it?
They're both challenging, especially if you have eye for details, if you want to be good at what you do. You want to spend time, even if you're just acting, you have to spend time to study your character and develop your characters. Every serious actor must take time to do some background work on the role you're given to play. So it's not just reading of scripts. That means you have research to make, you have questions to ask. For instance, if I'm to play the role of a president, for instance, I have never been a president in my life before, right? I will have to find a way. Of course, I cannot meet the president to ask him what does it take to be a president. But I will probably go read about what presidents go. So I'll go and read books about presidents. Some of them have written memoirs. I'll go and read up some to get the experience of what it takes to be a president. Like I can read Barack Obama's book on what's that his famous book now? There's a book he wrote after he left presidency. I can read up a book like that. I can read books on Obasanjo's book, Not My Will. I can read it up and see what were the thought processes of him as a president. I need to do some research. And of course, I'll pick a character that I can model after and say, this is the character I want to play as a president. So it depends. And even as a producer, it's your job to go through, you make sure that the director gets the script right, the costumier is in line, the light person is lighting it properly, the set design is according to the... So it's just a whole... No work in the theater is easy. Everything is tough.
Okay, so let's take a very quick break now so we can show some of your works.
Oh,
yeah. Yeah, we do. All right, guys, let's take a very quick break now and we'll be showing some of his works. And when we come back, we'll be rounding up. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
This is my very good friend. In fact, he is now my brother. We served together in the army. This is a pay.
John, it's a tomorrow clinical. Sergeant Major retired. Under Giza. Under Giza. Under Giza. Under Giza.
Welcome back. Hope you enjoyed that interesting stage play there. So it was actually a nice one, and we actually hope the next one is going to be.
I hope so too.
Will actually blow our minds to like
I
the
hope
whole
so.
because a lot of people, I'm here for RMD, I'm here for this, I'm here for that. It was an interesting one actually.
Thank you.
So can you really give us upcoming filmmakers? Can you give an advice to them?
Upcoming filmmakers, what advice can you give? Just like in every other profession you do, pay attention to details. There's something I learned a few days ago, the dice nuggets of life.
Yeah.
Be diligent, have integrity, be consistent in your storytelling, quality story, and fourthly, be excellent. Excellence will mean everything. Your lighting should be perfect. Your sound should be properly done. The costume, don't compromise. I mean, everything you do, even the story, which you've been very particular about throughout this conversation, make sure your story is well told. First of all, the story is original and you're telling it well, and don't offend people. Like, you know, like the Gang of Lagos, for instance, that offended a lot of people in Lagos because the people in Lagos felt the story as it is told did not represent their culture properly. So there was a lot of hue and cry. There was actually an outrage about Gang of Lagos.
Yeah.
You don't want that kind of thing for your work. You know, you want to make sure that you do. It's also possible that the producer did it deliberately to get the rave.
Yeah.
So it's possible they deliberately distorted a few things to get that kind of traction. So everything, you never can tell what was going behind the minds of the producer. Say, you know what, let's not do it the way they are. Let's do it our own way. And it gave them traffic.
Okay.
And they made more money.
Talking about movie production, we all know that everything falls on finances. Yeah. Have you guys pushed further to the Nigerian government to help out in productions, or is it that they have not seen a story that is catchy enough for them to actually put in their funds on it?
No, you know the way it plays. Movie ordinarily cannot. It's a private endeavor, so it's not. Government can only create enabling environments. You can't do, but that doesn't mean they cannot put some funds in grants, whatever, or loans for producers who don't have the capacity to produce big project movies. But what government primarily is expected to do is create the environment, ensure that actors can import cameras, producers can import cameras, equipment without paying too many heavy duty, and that you have a movie village or or some studio where you can, like a Tyler Perry studio kind of a thing, where you can build any kind of set you want. In Tyler Perry studio, you can actually most of the things you see Tyler Perry produce are shot in the studio. Even the streets, they are in the studio. It's not any street in America. It's all constructed inside the studio. You know, so you need those kind of facilities. Those are the kind of things you say government can probably, if private individuals who have money, is a good investment for anybody who has the money, and you want to look for. If you I can guarantee anybody that if you put your money into movie production and you provide these kinds of facilities and your rates are not expensive, are not too expensive for producers, people would want to use them and pay money to shoot movies continually, and and why not?
Okay, thank you so much for coming on the show today. It's actually a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you.
All right. Viewers, this is all we have for you on today's episode of Showtime. Join us same time next week for a beautiful episode. Until next time, I remain Aisha.